Hi, everyone. And by the way, you're not the only person who finds these words big. I have to often give the words, and then they have to correct the words. It's a process. My name is Azzam, as was just introduced. I wanted to structure today's talk in 3 sections. First, I wanted to highlight what AI, everybody knows what AI is, but I wanted to talk about how can AI be used and what is the ethical way to use AI, because I don't believe that it's being talked about enough, the ethical way that AI should be used. And then I wanted to give you some examples from my experience, as was called out. I have worked in AI in 3 different countries, and there are slight differences, but I wanted to give you some examples of how applicable, how impactful AI is going to be. And insofar as everybody's journey is different, but insofar as it will be helpful for you, I wanted to offer some thoughts, some advice on what got me from the Maldives to New York. Because yes, I started from here, and I promise you there is a path from here, from this system to New York. But at least for me, it was not a straight path, nor was it an easy path, but there is a path. And that is one lesson that I really want to stress. So with that, I'll just jump into it. This is what people say, that AI is the great disruptor of our time. Now, when it comes to AI, there's a lot of hype, and then there's the reality. I actually don't believe this statement to be hype. It is true. AI will have far-reaching impact. And it's not just me saying it. Let's look at this. So we have the co-founder of LinkedIn saying that AI is going to reshape every job and every industry. That is quite a bold statement. It's basically saying no industry is safe. And believe it or not, that's the positive comment. There's another positive comment. This one comes from the CEO of Google. And this is even more, I think, it's an even bolder statement. He's saying AI will be more transformative than electricity or fire. Here's the thing. I believe this is true. I really do. Because let's think about timelines, okay? It took us about 50 years from electricity's beginnings to being widely adopted. AI has done that in 5 years, if not less. The speed, the velocity of impact and adoption, this is the worry. And that's why I will talk a little bit about the non-technical aspects of AI, such as legal protections, ethical usage. The worry today is that AI is being adopted so fast that the regulatory aspects don't keep up. And in between, we may suffer. Humans may find that their data is compromised, et cetera, and these are things I will talk about. Now, we should give a full picture. So these are 2 positive quotes. This could be considered a slightly negative quote. Elon Musk thinks that AI is a fundamental risk to the very existence of human civilization. Perhaps, if it's not managed properly, if it's not, I actually believe that with this statement, he's trying to make us aware and not take it easy, not be, if we don't take this serious, it could be bad. That is what he's saying. What about myself? I relate closest with a more balanced view. I relate strongly with this from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. He is saying that AI will be an integral part of solving the world's biggest problems. This is true. But he's the only one. He mentions the but. He's saying it must be developed in a way that reflects human values. And this is the part that I would stress. If I may share a personal experience that I've had, and this is just about the impact of AI. And yes, I work at JP Morgan now, but before that I was working at Apple in Ireland. And just the kind of impact that AI can have, one of the things that, because they recently released a new phone, so this is actually a very timely moment to mention this. So one of the things that I was able to do while I worked at Apple is there's a very short window between announcing a phone and releasing it. If it was announced yesterday, they wanted to start taking orders Friday, and next week they want to ship it. So that's actually a very small window to prepare and ship phones, right? And so as humans, we make mistakes. And I was able to create an AI tool that basically figured out the patterns of previous launches in terms of the setup, in terms of the data, in terms of the shipping. And if there was something amiss in the latest launch, it would actually figure that out. And in this process, there was a lot of time saving, a lot of money saving, right? I'm not at liberty to reveal the amounts, but the point is that there was a huge impact. And this is an example of my personal experience with the impact AI has. So I think we can agree that AI is impactful. So who will succeed in the era of AI? I believe that, I can reassure you, I believe there will always be a place for humans, all right? AI will never completely replace humans. But what I believe will happen is that those who embrace and use AI will replace those who don't. Imagine this. What if I walked in here today and said, I will not use that computer. I insist on using pen and paper, and I'm going to walk around writing notes. I probably wouldn't have a job very fast. AI, in not a decade, I believe even in 5 years' time, walking into a room and saying, I will not leverage and use AI will be the same as saying, I'm not going to use that computer. So it's coming, it's here, and now we have to figure out how. And the how is there. I know I've hit this a couple of times, but this is going to be a central theme of my talk, that it must be used ethically. Now, let's delve a little bit into that. What is the ethics of AI? You have two sides to it. When somebody is building an AI system, what is the ethical way to do it? And when somebody is using AI, and this is particularly relevant, I believe, for students, you know, we have this question of, can we use Gen AI tools? There may be lecturers. I teach myself, so as a lecturer, I often think, well, how will I stop my students from using Gen AI? The answer is no, you can't. Okay, there's no way. And if you can't do, well, thing is, if you can't beat them, you join them, right? So now I'd rather prefer to tell you, how do we use AI ethically in the learning environment, professional environment, without compromising the goals of learning and the professional lives that we lead. So first I'm going to talk about the systems. So if somebody is building an ethical AI system, we call it ethical if it hits these three things. The first one is, it must not discriminate, it must be fair. AI is kind of like a sponge. If you train AI on biased data, the resulting AI will be very biased. And unfortunately, we happen to live in a very biased world, which means it is incumbent on AI researchers, AI developers, AI users to counteract the existing bias. And that's what that is. We have to make sure, especially I work in the finance field, we are beginning to make decisions on mortgages, loans, credit cards using AI models. And in this moment, we cannot have AI repeating the inherent biases of humans. Transparency. If an AI model denies you a loan, and the customer comes back to us and says, well, I don't agree with your decision. Why did you deny my loan? Well, in that moment, I don't think we can turn to the customer and say, well, because the AI said so. Not really, right? So that's what explainability is. It means that when we take a decision from an AI, can we very clearly say, this is why it's yes or no, and if these very specific things were different, it would be a yes. That is explainability. And the last one, and the most important one, privacy and safety, right? Because if you think about it, if If a car runs on oil or petrol, AI runs on data, okay? AI is the lifeblood. In fact, most people refer to data as the new digital gold or the new oil of the 21st century, which means there is a lot of incentive to not regulate this aspect of it, because companies seeking to maximize profit and so on, right? And so that is why the ethical AI researcher would really stress the protection of data, ensuring security. It's all well and good for me to stand here talking about this stuff. It won't actually be a reality until it's legislated for. This has to come from the top, from the government level, and it has to be applied. Today, one of the strongest pieces of legislation is the EU AI Act. It is in the process of being enacted, and it hits these three. So it's too short a talk to go into details of it, but I'm happy to discuss, and you can look it up as well. So that was on the system side, building AI systems. Now, what about the individual? What if, as a student, as a lecturer, as somebody working in a professional environment, you wanted to use AI? Well, there are a couple of things you can consider. The first one is that you should always use AI responsibly. By that, what I mean is, don't trust everything the AI says. We've just talked about how it could be biased, and this is actually, not to get too technical, but there's a certain problem that we are discovering about the new GPT models, ChatGPT 5 and so on, and they call it sycophancy. Sycophancy basically means that the model doesn't know when to say, I don't know. It will never say no. It'll answer you if it knows, and if it doesn't know, it'll invent an answer and still give you something that, and it does an amazingly good job of inventing an answer that's just believable, but it's wrong, right? So we have to be careful. So that's the thing, fact check. Even use AI, but fact check. Don't over-rely. This one's important. Second one, respecting rights and boundaries. We've all seen news articles about artists having their work plagiarized by AI, and I'm not saying this was not done with any malicious intention. It's just that AI, again, as I said, it's a sponge. It was trained on the whole internet, and so now as the users, we have to be careful that we are not stepping on somebody else's trademark, copyright, and so on. We would not want it to happen to us. We should not wish it on or apply it on somebody else. The third one's very important there's a reason why there's a book on that figure. It's very relevant for the academic setting. And I'm actually doing an MBA myself at NYU, New York University, and we are allowed to use generative AI. The lecturers encourage it because, as I said, they know they can't stop it. They only ask for transparency. They're saying, don't use AI if you must to speed up your process. Don't ask AI, write my assignment. But you can say to AI, give me the structure of this assignment, help me find the research sources, and then put a little disclaimer up top to say, I wrote this assignment myself, but I did use AI for this, this, and this, and here's a bulleted list. And as long as that is there, the lecturers do not have any fault with that. And I believe that is the way. I believe that we have to accept AI, but we just have to do it in a managed way. And being transparent, especially in sensitive areas, that is the way, in my opinion. Right? So that's kind of the first section of the talk, where I was going to talk about AI and so on. Now I wanted to just touch a little bit on all the different areas that I've seen AI used. I've basically worked at Apple, JP Morgan, and Raytheon. Raytheon is an aerospace company, right? And these are kind of the main areas that I see AI being very useful right now. Anomaly detection is, think of a credit card, and we want to detect fraud. And I want to point out that these are words, but behind these words, there is real human impact. For example, you could have a scam where somebody is actively losing money. There is proof that an AI fraud detection algorithm immediately picks this out before the scam has gone too far, and the money can still be recovered. Right? Forecasting, especially at a bank or so on, we want to predict the future costing and so on. And if we can be more accurate about what something is going to be a week from now, we can make better decisions today. And if we make better decisions today, that means better outcomes tomorrow, right? Risk modeling. This is actually quite a big one, and I'll actually come back to this because I have a slide later where I share what I believe is the big opportunities from AI for Maldivian youth. And why is risk modeling such a big thing is because if you think about helping the young generation of Maldives become independent, start their own businesses and run their own businesses and grow their skill set, you need capital. And the current methods of risk scoring and approving people for loans and so on, it's not that great, to be honest. AI can leverage more pieces of information, and it can make a more democratic decision. And there have been multiple instances where somebody who would not get access to capital through regular means, but with AI-driven scoring models, they are able to access. And what that means is then doors and opportunities open for them that did not open before. Well, we all know chatbots, right? We use them every day. But I want to again give a slightly different take on it. There are chatbots that are specially tuned for mental health and financial advice, sensitive topics that we might feel we cannot go to somebody else and talk about, especially in a small community like this. If we were to design chatbots that can address mental health, financial health, these are not topics we talk about a lot in this society, let's be honest. AI can help, and we should use it. Computer vision, it's a big field, so I just put it in there, but that's basically where we have people who work in engineering and so on. So AI can speed up aircraft maintenance. You just take a picture of a part and it'll scan it and tell you this is exactly what's wrong with it, right? So that was a very high level kind of overview, but I wanted to bring it back again to this setting now, which is what do I believe is the big opportunity for Maldivian youth in AI? And I really want to stress this because I think there is a lot of opportunity. It's the big equalizer. Because of not having access to capital, not having access to knowledge, we are often disadvantaged. AI can equalize that. I will keep stressing that. So for example, economic impact. AI can diversify the Maldivian economy by allowing us to access different domains that we don't have a huge tech scene right now. AI can speed up app development. It can speed up modeling development. And it can actually expand the economy in that sense. Entrepreneurship, I mentioned that before, right? AI can help us motivate the Maldivian youth to come up with their own business ideas, execute on those ideas, generate profit, and ultimately be more independent. And the last one, skills development. As I said at the start, those who will use AI are going to replace those who don't, which means today the youth of Maldives need to know how to use it. Skills development. AI is a very practical tool. So the best way to use it is to get out there and actually use it. But again, happy to discuss this more in a Q&A or even afterwards, but I just wanted to stress that there is a huge opportunity here, and we cannot forget that. Now, in the remaining moments, I'm going to move back a little bit from technical stuff and AI, and maybe touch a little bit on my personal experiences and what I believe got me from the Maldives to where I am now, which is leading an AI team in New York. And some of this is also inspired by one of my favorite professors. His name is Mike North. He taught me leadership. And some of the ways in which he expressed these ideas were so good. I had actually emailed him yesterday, asked his permission, and he has gladly given it to share it with you guys. So the first thing is, I'm going to call it process over outcome. And that's because outcomes are inherently unpredictable. You do not control if you're going to get that job. You do not control if you're going to get along with your coworkers, or you don't control if you're going to get your promotion. And if you're a student, you can try to improve your chances of passing the exam. But if you focus too much on the final grade, you might forget to learn. And when somebody says, I am so-and-so, like if I had walked in here and just said, well, now I work for this place and I do this job, but I have no idea how I got here. Well, that's not very useful. That just means I got lucky. So far more important for us to realize not the outcome, but what is the process that will get us to that outcome, because then we can repeat it. And success is repeatable, right? That's how we do it. And that's the first thing I'm going to say. You don't worry so much anyway. I know it's hard not to worry, but don't worry about the grade you get. Worry about learning the material. Don't worry about, and that's process over outcome. Don't worry about the promotion. Worry about showing up to work every day and doing your part to the best of your ability. Process over outcome. And this applies everywhere, right? So this is the first big one. The next one I learned is that failure is feedback, not a verdict. What I mean is that, say, when you try something and you fail, it's not really a verdict on you. It's a feedback to say, well, here's something you could do differently the next time. Because this ties in very, very tightly, I would say, with the idea of risk. If you don't take a chance and you stick with what's comfortable, you won't go very far. So sometimes you have to take that chance to really excel. And I've been in this position myself. Most recently, when I finished my studies in the UK, and I'd also just completed my PhD in Ireland. And by the way, my father's sitting here. We had many discussions about this. And at the time, for me, I can honestly say it was a huge risk to pack up my life in Ireland and move to the US, a country I'd never lived in before, a country I never worked in before. But I just knew that I had learned my process. And if I turned up there and I took that risk, two things will happen. Either it will be successful, or I'll fail and then I'll realize, okay, well, maybe I'll fix this and this for the next one, right? There is actually, you become bulletproof. It's when you frame it this way, because there's no way to fail. And also, for the record, I'm actually glad I moved. It's been great, right? And then, this is also an important one. The more competitive you get, the higher you go, the more people you will find that are as good as you technically. They have all the degrees that you do. They know all the right connections that you do. But then you still got to pick one. And when all else are equal, soft skills matter a lot. And there is one particular soft skill that's so important, I'll come back to it later in the next slide, and that's resilience. But even before resilience, there are other soft skills. One thing that, this is not actually something I thought, so when I was preparing for this talk, I reached out to my friends in all these countries. And I said, I'm giving this talk and I want to sort of share what it is that might get us, move them forward. And I asked them, what did you see from me that you believe helped? So I was looking for feedback. And A good friend of mine, he lives in the US, he said something that struck me very much, because until he said it, I didn't know I did that. He said, you always assume the best of people. You do not take a negative view or judge anybody, because here's the thing. We are all governed often by circumstances beyond our control. We don't actually control where we are born or what our circumstances are. We make the best of the opportunities we have. So it would be unfair for me to judge anybody else, right? That's what I've always believed, and it's actually what I've been taught by my dad. And apparently that's been very good for my career, according to the people I asked about this. So definitely, soft skills matter a lot. Don't disregard it, is my point. This one gets its own slide, because I've just told you to take risks. I've just told you to take chances. Sometimes you'll fail. And resilience is really, think of it like a muscle. Like you go to the gym and you work out, it's a muscle. And the way you work your resilience muscle, you actually need to fail. And I actually haven't talked about this too much detail ever, but I actually had a pretty big failure myself when I first moved. I did pretty good in school here. And when I first moved to the UK for my undergrad, I actually didn't adjust too well to the system. And my dad knows this, I actually failed my first year. And I'm fine talking about this today. Because if I had not failed, I don't think if I hadn't failed then, I don't think I would have had the resilience to get myself to New York today. So failure, but at the time I took it as a verdict, not feedback. But resilience is something you only build by failing, and failure is not a problem. Take that risk, please. If there's something you want to do, take the risk, take the chance, because it's win-win, trust me. Now, this is a figure I want to leave you with, because especially coming in here today, being introduced at a podium like this, everybody sees the top part. Everybody will say, this degree and that award and this one and this job. But that's not the real, that's the symptoms, that's not the disease, you know what I mean? Those are just symptoms. The real stuff is down below. It's the stuff I've been telling you about. And if I hadn't said this enough times, let me say it one more time, process, okay? It's about building resilience, putting in the hard work, learning your process, and I promise you this, trust the process, everything above the line will come. You don't have to chase that. Focus on this stuff below, and what's up will come. As a last step, this is my last slide. It's the slide I'm going to leave you with. I know everybody says thank you at the end. I prefer to put this, because firstly, I want to take a few moments now. I want to thank my parents, because if you open my PhD thesis, there's a dedication. My PhD thesis was about 250 pages long. That one page has 4 lines. I spend more time on that one page than any other page in the thesis. And I don't need to refer anything. I know by heart what I wrote. So here it is. This thesis is dedicated to my parents, Azzam Naeem and Arifa Muhammad, who sacrificed so much for my education. I'm grateful to them, and you should be grateful to all the people in your life, because life is hard, right? And that's okay. And I think all my advice today, I'll be honest, it's going to make life a little bit harder before it makes it better. So along the way, be thankful to the people you have. Be thankful to your family members, to your loved ones. I know I'm actually really happy that my dad's here to hear this today. And that's what I got. Thank you.